Thank you, Vishal. We are incredibly excited and honored to have you as our guest for today. And when uh, people think about AI, the first company that comes to mind is NVIDIA. And you all heard about Vishal's background. He's an industry leader. He has led NVIDIA in significant growth in India and Asia. And I'm really excited to looking forward to hearing his perspectives. Thank you, Vishal.
Thank you, privilege.
So Vishal, let me get started with my first question. So Sam Altman made a striking comment recently. He said our GPUs are melting. It's dramatic, but it also points to a real challenge, right? The environmental footprint of AI is becoming impossible to ignore. With NVIDIA right at the heart of this surge, how are you actively thinking and doing, and what are you doing to prevent the future from not spiraling into an energy crisis?
What a fantastic question to start off with. I was in a session a few weeks back, and this very story was making headlines. And my takeaway at that time was when humans get excited, things melt. And in this particular case, it was the GPUs. That's what Sam Altman said. But if I take the same picture and think about it, you're talking about a land where Rakuten comes from, where the art comes from, really known for its innovation and artistic parts. And as I reflect on that statement, I think of one man. His name is Kevin Kelly, the founder of D Wired. And he continues to say mankind has an ability to surprise God. God was nice to create this universe. He gave us living beings and things. Among living beings were humans, and he was extra nice to humans. He gave them an ingenuity, saying that you can go and also play around with the process of creation. We took it so literally. We created technology and we started mimicking all things as humans. And welcome to this world where obviously people took the style, the Ghibli style, and started reimagining themselves and telling us when the excitement is a lot. And Sunil, you just spoke about a chat GPT movement and various movements. There was a Ghibli movement that tells you the Ghibli movement really stresses the infrastructure if you haven't planned this. Now, coming straight to your question, this is, I think, very profound and deep because for the very first time in the history of computing, you will have data centers consuming power in double digits. In the 65 years of the modern computing era, there haven't been a time when we have crossed more than a percentage of world power. And therefore, it was probably never spoken. But now you're moving to double digits, or at least that's what you're anticipating. You're going to be moving towards double digits. And this was the same observation that was made when NVIDIA came into existence in 1993. A year before I was born was in introduction of an architecture which is called general purpose computers. It was introduced by IBM in their products called the IBM S390. Sorry, 360, not 390. Yes, IBM S360. And in that architecture, what was defined is that we're going to have a CPU, we will have memory, we'll have I/O, and most importantly, we are going to extract the application layer from the hardware layer to an operating system. It's exactly the same architecture that has gone from mainframes to mini computers, personal computers, even to your smartphones. That architecture never changed. Think about it. It also had an observation. It's called the empirical observation. Some people call it a law that at the height of the personal computing revolution, that you could double the performance of a computer and reduce the cost of the software by half every 2 years, approximately 18 to 24 months. And that wisdom allowed the industry to grow at 40% compounded for last 40 years. But like it happens with all laws of physics, you hit a wall. And the observation NVIDIA had at that time was that while general purpose compute is good at everything, is it that there are things that it's not good at? And can we go after those? And that became the purpose of NVIDIA coming into play. That how can you have the best of two worlds, sequential computing, parallel computing, working together, not just purely to solve problems, but to do it effectively, sustained, and energy efficient. Now, every time I joined NVIDIA in 2010, people used to ask me, hey, tell us more about NVIDIA. Now people in this year tell me what NVIDIA does. And one thing they often say that computing is very expensive. And that really is closer to your question. And I'll also answer the energy efficiency part. So let me take an example. Each of you is a practitioner. And if you were given $10 million, imagine $10 million being given, and you've been asked to spend full $10 million. The choice is go after general purpose compute or choose accelerated compute. When you will get your Excel sheet, you'll find that you will need to buy 960 computer nodes if you go for a general purpose compute, add everything in it, networking, storage, whatever it takes, for the very purpose that Sunil spoke about, to create a language model. It will consume 11 gigawatts per hour of electricity. So $10 million, 960 servers, 11 gigawatts, and will help you to create a large language model. Your other choice, spend $10 million, just get 48 servers. Well, that's all it can fit in. And that's what people probably say is expensive. 48 servers, it'll consume, instead of 11 gigawatts, only 300. So it's like quantum lower, and will perform 44 times better. Now, anybody's mathematical calculation will tell you that this is energy efficient, effective, and the right way to move forward. Now, many of you in this room also are believers that Sunil can worry about money. I don't have to worry about money. I should do a task. I've been asked to do a language model. Let's go and build this language model. So now your fixation is the language model. You can still do that language model with 960 servers, 11 gigawatts per hour of electricity, and you'll still spend $10 million. Otherwise, if you have to do that task, you buy two servers which are accelerated compute. It'll cost you $400,000. Well, the electricity, which is 0.03 gigawatts. So now you tell me mathematically, isn't this an energy efficient, sustainable, cost effective solution that is in? And that's why we keep articulating the tipping point for computing has moved towards accelerated compute, and almost all data centers in future will be built on accelerated computing. And that, I believe, will ensure that even when humanity is excited, it will not make the compute melt.
Thank you. That was some wonderful insights, and you touched upon a variety of different points. Okay, I have another question. It is around the culture of NVIDIA. When most of the world wasn't even talking about generative AI, NVIDIA was already building the foundation for it. That kind of foresight isn't accidental. What is it about NVIDIA's DNA that makes it possible to not just anticipate the future, but to actually create the future?
Sunil, if I have to be honest, I don't have a crystal ball to tell you what the future is. But there is faith, there is a belief, there's a reason why we do few things. And this is what I have learned over the years watching the leadership operate at NVIDIA. Foremost, NVIDIA was built on a purpose to solve hard computing problems that general purpose compute cannot solve, as long as it can have a societal impact and it can grow large. That's why you often see when NVIDIA gets referred, we talk about $0 billion market. So we are a company which is built on creating markets and not taking share. And often, when we've created a market, it becomes bigger and it kind of inspires others to come for it. We are then looking at an opportunity how we can do pretty much closer to your own culture, where you keep building to add to the value. The distinction is that we have no backdrop of what that market would look like, except we have a very good belief and extremely good reasoning behind it. No spreadsheet will help us. It is reasoning and belief. For example, CUDA was introduced to the world when we started seeing a lot of people who were scientists disguising their applications as graphic applications to benefit from parallel computing. We could sense that the world requires an easy mechanism, and that's where CUDA was introduced. CUDA was introduced in 2006. It brought down the margins of the company, and anybody on board will tell you why you're doing it. Why should you saddle a horse when you don't need to sit on a horse? When you're not ready to ride a horse, why are you saddling it up? We saddled it because our belief was, through good reasoning, that even if it brings margins down, it is going to be easy way to help people who want to write software in numerical to easily benefit from GPU computing and not disguise it like graphics. And it was interesting that in 2012, the work being done under Hinton by Alex Krasnowski and Ilya Sutskever suddenly discovered this magical moment, what people call as the Big Bang of AI in 2012, that in computer vision, the software that was written by non-computer vision experts ended up being 12 percentage points better than the domain experts. And everybody wondered, for 60 years, this pursuit to solve problems of perception has been upon us. What changed? It's not as if people didn't know about algorithm. People were not pursuing it, but we couldn't solve the problem of perception. It had to do with the same gaming card called the GPU being applied for 2 weeks to write this algorithm and do it. And the reasoning, it was pretty clear to us that if we can augment the work of every software engineer through this means and can augment the life of every person, then this is the future. We better saddle it. And that's where our journey of AI started off. When our journey of AI really started off, computers were not built for AI. They were meant for sequential programming. And our purveyors of our technology were OEMs. OEMs build systems which the world wants. They don't build systems which are niche. And understanding AI requires a different computer system. If nobody builds it, you got to build it. So the ability to do things which nobody else wants to do was the third element in our culture. So we built a system, and we said we're going to build this system for our own engineers, for our own researchers, and we're going to test this whole AI revolution. Can it be built on top of that? But like I said, we like to share. So we shared that computing with about 5 really high-end AI researchers. One system went to Elon Musk, another went to Andrew Ang, the third one went to Hinton and a couple of more people. I think Elias also got one of the systems. Now, all technologies are good, and like you rightfully said, if you have a vision. Our company is built on a vision, and our AI journey was built on a vision which stated that you require a safe human and a healthy human. Now, that's very close to any culture, that if you can be safe and you can be healthy, every human lives, because after all, we want to surprise the God. So in that spirit, The tools that were given help us to understand what does it take into computing, and therefore what we preach is what we practice. And therefore, when you have a belief and you have a reasoning, you translate that with tools and a vision, and then you start that journey. And that's what you probably said. It's nice to talk about NVIDIA when you talk about AI revolution.
Thank you, Vishal. Very insightful. If I may ask an adjoining question to that, and that is, what's NVIDIA betting on now that most of the world still doesn't see?
I think the world is seeing. World is definitely seeing. The question is, are you seeing it? And are you taking advantage of it? There's some tremendous changes that have happened in a very short period of time. 2012, like I spoke, was the age of perception. Then with the coming of transformers, we started talking about generative AI. For the first time, we saw computing not retrieving information dominantly, but actually generating a brand new content. And now we're talking about, thanks to self-learning, transformer, we're talking about agentic workflows. I believe that most of the IT department is going to become an HR department. You're going to be creating digital species that augment your productivity, that reflect your values. They stay with your governance model, but they have to be onboarded just like you were onboarded in Rakuten. And with or without experience from college or from lateral, you came and you learned the language of Rakuten and you cultivated that, you learned about it, and you operate with all your ingenuity, with all your innovation, all your creativity within the framework called Rakuten. So you're going to have not only humans, but we'll also have biological humans or digital humans around you. So I strongly feel that's going to happen. The second thing is definitely in pursuit, and we've seen this in computer graphics world. Humans do test a lot of things in simulation. But if you want to have a practical application of simulation, it has to be physics infused and physical. The same thing is going to happen in AI. Today, if you were to ask ChatGPT that if I was to drop a paper with my left hand, where is it going to land? Need to do it. You will need to learn to infuse physics and physical properties play in your models. And that's a pursuit that NVIDIA is doing. The work we're doing on Cosmos of that to heartbeats in physical and biological worlds simultaneously. So that's the future that I'm conceiving. That's going to be really happening. I think it's much shorter than 10 years. It's absolutely around the corner. And all of us should pay attention to that. As much as you learned in 12 years space, perception to generative to agentic, physics and physical needs to be part of your work.
Thank you, Vishal. The physical part is very profound. In one of the problem statements that in e-commerce we tend to look at is, I'll just give an example from the furniture space. Let's say somebody's buying some furniture for their home. It's no longer important that how does this sofa look like in my living room, but two questions become important. Does this work for my family? If I've got kids that are going to be jumping up and down the sofa, can the spring actually take it for the next 5 years? Secondly, can I actually get the sofa inside the house? Because door sizes in India are very non-standard. So, it's okay to buy it online, but what if it doesn't fit? So LLMs these days, if somebody customer comes and asks, does this sofa work for my home? It needs to understand the physics or the reality of the physical reality behind it. So it can recommend that, this is not going to fit in because I know the dimensions from the catalog. I know you just keep your phone on your door. It can estimate that this won't fit in and say, no, this is not going to work for you. So from what you said about sort of physics enabled LLMs, that's sort of the future that the rest of us are sort of pondering and experimenting right now as well. So that fits in right.
So true, right? E-commerce, Rakuten, Flipkart, basic knowledge is telling you because once you start getting your material back, especially in India, where we introduce this concept that, hey, buy online, return it. So we're testing it out. We have a lot of time. But it's terrible for the business to keep getting those returns because your value is getting depreciated. Imagine how much we can reduce if we enable that. So very well spoken, Sudhir. Thank you for bringing that up.
I have one more. So, Vishal, you have often mentioned about India's potential as the intelligence capital of the world, driven by its AI talent. However, when we look at the advances in foundational models, applications, GPUs, which are all central to today's AI breakthrough, uh, there's a perception that India is still somewhat behind the curve. What do you think is missing in India's AI ecosystem that needs to change or develop for the country to lead in this critical area?
I'm a strong believer that India has an opportunity to be the intelligence capital of the world, and I'll tell you why. And it's my belief that every time the word fashion is spoken about, there are a couple of names that emerge: France, Milan. If you look at those names, they don't manufacture cloth for the entire world, but they have a nuance that spells design and increases your appetite to buy more of that fashion. The suit, which is a two-button suit moving to overlap suit, comes from one of those countries, and slowly all of us adapt that. I think India has the same potential. A 5,000 years of culture, nuances, societal interactions, and more importantly, population scale problems. So you have a need and you have a resource like Rakuten, like NVIDIA. 2,400 companies come to take advantage of talent in India. So we have the expertise, and those who are not here, the same Indians also write pretty much every line of code that you use today. So we have the talent, we have the need, and most importantly, we have data sets that can be curated. Now we can sit down and we can argue that, hey, we don't have enough data sets, we're not able to unlock it. That is something that we understand. And it is for this very reason, if you look at it through any index, look at through the index of Stanford AI, it says India is prospering in generative AI. You look deeper, India is getting global APIs to apply to their workflows and workloads. That's good. But it's almost like saying that the fuel was found in India, which is your data, but you exported the fuel to be refined in some other country and importing it, which of course is an expensive proposition. Now, if we were to build AI ready data centers, AI factories, translating our digital experience, what we call as data into tokens that we own, we manage, and we build, which is imperative with the technical knowledge and population scale problems, we will deliver to the world, which will be unique, nuanced, just like France, and Milan to the fashion will be intelligence from India. Now, there's a reason why I say India. I'm hoping at some stage I can say Bangalore. Just keeping it to India, and hopefully very soon, as we realize this potential, we'll say one of the cities. And it could be any city. And I'm so glad to see what the government of India is doing. Is the countervailing force to the global APIs which are being formed. They're encouraging people to start applying infrastructure. That's why they have this public-private partnership against what they have very clearly articulated in their strategy paper, AI for all. They also did call it the garage of the world. And it's a garage of the world because the things that will get solved here will be solved for entirety of humanity. But let's say AI for all, which is for us. They're encouraging you to do. And now what we are hoping that all wonderful minds will translate that idea into reality. And very quickly, India will be the capital. We're just going to wait. Is it going to be Bangalore? Or is it going to be Gurgaon? Or is it going to be Lucknow? But somebody will.
Thank you. I'm being told we are almost getting to closure on time, but I'm going to sneak in one last one. Vishal, what's the hardest part of leading and being a part of an organization that's always in the news?
That also told me before I to ask a question to Sunil. I was about to ask him a question, but he changed it to me.
So, I feel like I'm meeting a modern day Shankaracharya, and then the depth of perspectives you're bringing in, philosophy to culture to technology is very interesting, and hence I'm going to ask you the last
Okay,
one.
I guess the expense of your time. I know it's for her coming in. All right, very quickly. So, what keeps us excited is the fundamental part that there are many, many hard problems in the world to solve. And you got to have an organizational setup that can get aligned there. So, agility is extremely important. Our company is reverse of everything that you'll probably learn in any B school. And you'll figure out that we work on a concept called a game plan. And game plan is not built on scorecard. Scorecard is a deliverable of a game plan. So our belief is translated into a game plan. We pursue it. There's certain things we can control. There's few things we can't control. We are agile to understand the problem, figure out the solution, but sooner than later we land up there. What a lot of companies do, they go declare what they want to achieve and work backwards. So we work backwards to forward. And as long as we get this concept, which I learned after working 25 years in the other part of the industry, I came into NVIDIA in 2010. And that's been my biggest realization. Work on a game plan, score will happen. Don't only look at score because you may lose out on game plan.
Thank you, Vishal. That was really, really insightful and profound perspectives.
I thought you were still giving one nugget at their expense.
Okay.
For you, please tell me.
One more question?
No. You should give me an answer to the same question. That what you're doing here.
I think
Yeah, because you've been he's a very tall leader. The industry is known about Sunil for a long period of time. He's applied learnings and he's brought it here. So it'll be nice. I know he spent about 15 minutes telling you what he does, but there's a secret that he has, and he wants to reveal the secret today.
I think, more than anything, with Rakuten as a company, our CEO, Miki Mikitani, there are very few companies where, just like NVIDIA, where the founder is still the CEO after almost 30 years, right? So people talk about day one mindset. This company embodies day one mindset. It's incredibly hard to build 75 companies. People, can build one company in their entire lifetime, and that's a very fulfilling life, purpose. But to do this 70 times over, this couldn't have been possible without, the vision of our founder, Mr. Miki Mikitani. And he drives all of us, as I said, speed, empowering the world. I mean, these are things that we don't just say, but we do. And there's always this incredible dance between innovation, technology, people, and business outcomes. Right? And very few companies can operationalize that dance. And Rakuten is one such company, because of the culture that can form this beautiful bridge between technology, innovation, purpose, and getting things done. I think that's part of the secret sauce that has helped us get to the stage.
Beautifully articulated. He used the word dance. How many of you enjoy watching dance? Almost everyone. Salsa is a beautiful dance. The Rakuten and NVIDIA ecosystem dance together and let the world enjoy the salsa. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks. By the way, we should give him an account of how many GPUs we are using here in